Hello, I am live, but I am late. I'm so sorry. I was just in the middle of something there and I went, look at the time. So apologies. Welcome to this week's, it's like a Q&A Wednesday, really. I get asked the most interesting, juiciest questions as I live my life and play with my hair, as I live my life as a visibility specialist, as a visibility queen, as the queen of being seen. And, I get all sorts of interesting inquiries from individual business owners, from businesses who have small teams, and from some of the larger kind of corporations. And I like to share these with you, especially when they become commonly asked questions rather than frequently asked questions. So today's is no different. Now, one of the things that I think about quite a lot is people will often ask me this question. And that question is, how can I have more people like my posts? Interestingly, I've had a lot of people ask us about LinkedIn, and whilst I don't claim to be a LinkedIn specialist, I am a visibility specialist. And the answer that I'm going to give you might not be the answer that you're expecting. Why is that? Normally, when people ask that question of how can I have more people like what I share, like my post, like what I put out there, they normally have three things going on: how they're thinking about it in terms of the results and what it could bring for them. They have the maybe I feel like I could spice them up a bit. And they also want really the practicalities of like the actual hows to do it. But in order to answer such a simple and beautiful question, you usually have to go back a few steps. So I'm going to just touch on three of those steps to help you to know how to do this. Of course, all flavored and powered by visibility. So the first thing is, how can I have more people like my posts? So it is very common especially for business owners, when they're trying to get more exposure, more visibility, have their marketing work better to increase the sales that they get at the end of it. It's very common for them to think that if a gazillion people like my posts, then a gazillion people know that I'm here and a gazillion people will buy. Strictly speaking, that could be true, but it's not a necessary part of being visible. It's not a necessary part of your sales, and it's not a necessary part of your marketing at all. At all. So here's the thing. First thing to think about is like in fact, the very first thing to think about is, why are you posting what you're posting? Because there is a difference between whether you're posting for exposure, whether you're posting for sales, whether you're posting to have people like the post and go viral. The nuances of those three things mean that the post will differ slightly and what you share will differ slightly. And by the way, if you are watching, do say hello, just type hi in the box so that I know that I'm, just not blowing my words into the wind. I'd be very grateful. So the first thing to think about is like, what's the purpose of that post? And usually when people ask me this question, they're talking about social media. And also usually when people are asking this question, they tend to be talking more about LinkedIn, Facebook, sometimes Instagram, and they kind of wave off tweets and Twitter. So the reason to know why you're posting this first then leads into your mindset, and it also informs you with the best place to post. If I want to put a post out for sheep farmers, there's no point me putting adverts up on the school gates or letting people know through lots of Facebook Lives. I need to get in front of where those farmers are at. It could mean physical networking. It could mean looking at those trade specific, trade, can't speak today, trade specific pieces, publications and things like that. So it is quite important. Otherwise, you will feel like you're spinning your wheels. Second thing to think about, So that's the first thing, which will lead to the mindset. And the mindset of that is, like, sometimes, honestly, people think, oh, well, if I've got a gazillion trillion likes and shares, then it's a success. Would you rather have a gazillion trillion likes and shares, or would you rather have a handful of likes or shares and people actually taking an action to contact you, connect with you, work with you? Okay, so it's up to you. There is no right or wrong, but you need to decide which of those feels more important. So the second thing is all around kind of how we, or the passion of how we do this. Now, with that mindset nugget in, like, we're clear in our head, if we want the post to go viral, then there will be things that we need to do to make sure that it goes viral, or to try to make sure that it goes viral, because that's not guaranteed. If we want it to be selling something, then the way that that content is worded and shared will be very different to the way it would be if you're just informing somebody and saying, hey, look at this. So again, that first kind of thought process helps to inform more about the post, and you know, how it's going to be received, and how it's going to be. And again, I stress, you can't control how people consume your content or your information. All you can do is be clear in what you're doing, why you're doing it, how it's going to look, and how it's going to benefit, hopefully, them as well as you. Okay, so important if you want more people to have a look at your posts, but it's not a deal breaker. It's interesting because, as a visibility specialist myself, you'll notice that I have a fairly okay sized following on much of social media, but it's not massive. It's not in the, you know, tens of thousands. Collectively it is, but you know, if you look at my Facebook page, if you're looking at the Queen of Being Seen Facebook page, if you're looking at my subscribers on YouTube, if you're looking at my connections on LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn might be the highest after my email list. So I think I've got about over 3,000, I know, connections on LinkedIn. Same with Twitter, a couple of thousand over there. You know, a couple of thousand on Instagram, 1.5, I think, on Facebook. And then there's my private page and the groups that I run and all of that kind of stuff. So those numbers add up. But if I was to lead with visibility being important depending on the numbers, I wouldn't get anything done. I probably wouldn't sleep at night, and I'd worry and spend all my time wondering about who's liking my stuff. And that's not it. I have a bigger vision. My bigger vision is to have your voice to be heard, have you to be confident in being visible, have you to feel ready in being visible, whether that's one person that follows you or 1 million people that follow you. Because let's face it, before you build up to the thousands and thousands of people that follow you, if you are grappling with how to do this effectively with one person following you, 10 people following you, 100 people following you, and you don't work through that from a visibility perspective, then how on earth will you do that when you get to the thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions? So this is important. So some practicalities, and I've spoken a little bit about these in some of the lives this week. I had such an interesting conversation with a really juicy company and members of their team just recently. And here's what I would say. The most important thing, and any marketeer will tell you this, and any salesperson, a great salesperson will tell you this, is knowing who your who is. Who is your who? Now, I talk about this in the ABCs to being more visible, which is a little mini course if you are interested in partaking of that before it's been kind of publicly promoted. Do let me know. We talk about how to speak to your ideal audiences in a way that feels like you, and ways to look at structuring your business model so that it fits for the thing that you do. And again, doesn't have you darting all over the country when actually you want to stay at home with the kids, or you've got caring responsibilities, or doesn't have you having to act like an extrovert everywhere if you're neurodiverse or introvert, or just don't like being in the public glare. Yes, you can be visible without being constantly in the public eye. So if that's something you're interested in, then do connect with me in whichever way you would normally connect with me. Send me a message on these, or type a comment, and I will get that over to you. But most importantly, when you are looking to to have more people read your post, you need to be brutally honest with yourself. Is this post even interesting? Does it speak to the people I want it to speak to? Does it say the sort of thing that really helps them to understand what it is that I can do for them, or what it is that's troubling them? Do they feel understood in the problem that they might have, that you might be solving, especially if you're a service-based business? And do they understand how I can help with that struggle? If you can start to articulate that in what you're sharing, it will make a marked difference. So that's it for this week. As always, you might be watching this on Facebook, and you might prefer to watch it on something like YouTube. Do go over to YouTube, and as long as this recording is okay, I'll even share it on LinkedIn. That's it. Bye for now.